Hi guys, welcome to Bitdeer AI, and we are going to look at some of our key features, very interesting features including training platform, workflow services, and other features. So what you're going to do is that you are going to visit bitdeer.ai and click on this try it out. And down here, as you can see, we have different features, so we'll go through them one by one. The first thing we are going to look is this project. So project is an environment for your team to access different training resources. So we are going to create a project, and you can add on text as well, so that you can filter and search it up later on in the listing page much easier. And this is where you can invite your fellow colleagues, for example, your project manager, your developers, so that you can work on the same notebooks, the same code base together. And then I'm going to invite my teammate and then confirm. And down here, the second thing we'll be looking at is this notebook feature. So in this notebook creation, we can select the project we created just now, and then select the region that is closest to you or your server, so that it's lower latency. And then demo LM. And as you can see, we can choose whether we want to reserve GPU or not. So for example, in Singapore, we have RTX 3090 and one card available. And then the NVIDIA H100 is not available because it's too competitive in the market right now. And we can take a look at the United States. We do have H100 available. So this is where the reserved GPU comes in handy, because when you reserve the GPU, you are going to use it as long as you want, as long as it meets your training requirements, and it won't be occupied by other users as well. So down here, we take a look at the images. We can use either PyTorch, TensorFlow, SciPy. You use the one that is most satisfied to your needs. For example, I choose PyTorch here with the examples. Then more volume, so that we can persist the data later on with this volume. Now the notebook is created successfully, and we'll wait for a bit before it's created fully and running. Now that it's running, we can connect into the notebook workspace. Alright, our notebook workspace is up. So this image itself comes with this example or the PyTorch tutorial. So you can follow this guide and also fine-tune and train on your open source large language model or your own proprietary model as well. So that this guide itself serves to help you with your fine-tuning, with your training on your own vertical domain. And you can go through this by yourself in details, but today we won't go into this kind of details. So this is the training process. And down here, we are going to do the inference with the trained model, the fine-tuned model. Now we introduced about the GPU reserved notebook. Now we'll take a look at the other approach. So you can select this, create a new notebook, and the region for Singapore. Let's say this is called Demo Elastic Notebook. And then for computing resources, we don't want to reserve it now. We want it to be dynamically allocated. All right. Elastic volume. So this is the volume we use. And then we launch. All right. So it's running, it's initializing. Now it's running, we connect to it. So what is very useful is that you won't be charged a higher amount of money for the powerful GPU instances like H100 or RTX 3090, and you can just select the bare minimum for computing resources when you're just writing the code, or you don't need the GPU instance. So let me give an example. As you can see, we can just select the GPU instances within the notebook environment itself. So let's create a new notebook file, and we use the CPU only for now. All right. So we see currently we don't have any GPU attached. Right, we just run this. So there's no GPU attached. We can, let's say we are writing just some CPU computing power required code. So we just use the CPU instance. However, when we want to use the GPU instance, we can just connect to the kernel as we need. All right, now we are connecting to RTX 3090. Let's say we are going to run some training. And then how do we verify this? We just run this NVIDIA SMI again. So let's see. For this part, now we are connecting to RTX 3090. You can just switch to the instance or the kernel that you need, all right, on the spot. So that this is much more cost effective, and this is a much more flexible approach to use the notebook. The notebook is very useful for you to kickstart your training project, right? However, it's not so useful if you want to train on a larger scale. Let's say you want to run on 2 machines, you want to run on 10 machines, 100 machines. That's where the distributed training job comes in handy. So a job is an experiment that you can run through our Bitdeer CLI or our Bitdeer SDK, and you can run it on a larger scale on a distributed service. So you can create it using this UI, or you can also go into the code to use the SDK. So we can go back to the notebook itself for easier demonstration. Our notebook actually comes with this guide as well to teaches you how to use this Bitdeer AI SDK. So as you can see, we can just run on the CPU kernel because on this notebook itself, we don't need the machine, the GPU instance. However, when we submit it later on, it will be running on these specifications. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to install the Bitdeer AI SDK. And then you can go through all these details, but we won't go into that much of details for today. And the most important part of this guide is to create a training job, right? And then for this part, you can look at the arguments, what kind of data that you need to input. And then one of the most important one is the worker spec or the worker specification. So let's say you want one NVIDIA H100 card running on multiple machines, then you use this H100 specification key later on as your argument. Or you want to run on RTX 3090 on one card, then you select this one. All right, so we also specify how many workers, etc. So this is where we define the job specification. So we need the project ID. So let's go back to our project page. So this was our project, right? So we copy this ID and paste into this part. Careful with the space there. And then for the volume name, you can go back into this project. And we want the volume to be shared between our training notebook and our training job. So we just copy this workspace volume to use this same volume. What it's going to do is that it will mount the same persistent volume or the persistent storage so that our training script here can be put inside our training job instance as well. And as for the API key, as you can see, we need to go into our user profile page to find our API key. So let's do that and go back to our profile page. Down here, we have our API authentication key, and we can just copy it, paste into here. And then worker spec, let's use this RTX 3090 directly as it is. Then we just take a look, everything's fine. let's say we want to use 2 nodes, right? 2 workers, we can do that as well, and then submit this job. Right, we just run this cell. It's running now. It's submitting the job. All right, so this is the job created. So let's go back to the playground. You see from the UI, it's validated. This training job is running. We can continue on with our code as well. You print it, it's running. Run it. Then you see, there's the worker going on. Then we can run the logs here as well. Or we can just go into our UI directly for better visualization. Right, so you can see the logs here. It's super handy. You can just read the logs. You see the logs are printing out. On the other hand, we do have this CLI available. So what we are going to do is that you can use this Bitdeer AI and log in with your token. Okay, and then training list. As you can see, the job just now would be listed here as well. And there are much more useful functions available in your our Bitdeer CLI. And let's go back here. As you can see, the training is finished now. And then we can go back to the job listing page. You see that the status is completed. So this job comes in handy because you can run it on multiple machines. For example, we are running on 2 separate machines, each with 1 card RTX 3090. This is where the jobs comes in super handy and super useful for your large scale distributed training. Aside from training, we do provide inference level services, and we do also create this workflow service for you to easily scale and easily kickstart your project. So what this workflow does is that it's a very simple and low code, no code pipeline for you to create your own workflow that can directly be applied to your day-to-day business use cases. So what do we mean by that? Let's create one workflow, for example. And then for demo. So this was the one we created just now. And by default, the most simple use case, maybe we can just create one more node, right? So a LLM, a text-to-text as our intermediate, and then a result node, right? So for input wise, maybe we can add one more input, right? So this is, let's say we want a paragraph, a report, right? This is our input, a report. And then it will be linked to this text-to-text LLM, and then this text-to-text will be using this. So the system message can be act as a helpful assistant, help to summarize the report, right? So this is a workflow that you can use repetitively, and let's say the user input should be the report, right? So we ask the Llama tree to help us to summarize the report every time when it comes in. Let's run it. So let's say we do have this press release by Bitdeer AI, but this is generated by AI as well. So we just run it. So by expectation, we would expect that the LLM, the Llama tree, would help us to summarize the whole report, right? And then that will be generated as the outcome for this text. All right, so this node is completed. We can see every single node outcome as well, the input and output. So this is so useful. It's outputting the text as well, right? So this is the text. It's a summary of the report, which is very, very useful. So every time when you want to run it, you just click on the run button, fill in the information that you need. So now let's take a look at a more complicated workflow that might assimilate the real life business use case. So right here, we can take a look. The input is a resolution, video URL, banner image, and whether we want to do a press release. So this is simulating we are doing a press release as a journalist or as a reporter, and we are going to base it on a video. So the first condition that we want to justify is whether the resolution is high enough. So when the resolution is too low, we might not want to use the video for our reporting. So we'll just do upscaling. So this is upscaling node that we do for workflow. And then after the video upscaling is completed, after some time, it will send a Slack message to our group chat. And after that, we know that the video upscaling is completed and we can download the video. So another use case is that if the resolution is high enough, then we can go on and do the reporting. So the first node that comes in handy is this video understanding model from Lava One Vision. And then after understanding it with the context, the text, we can use it for a press release. So we can pass it on to LLM again for Llama 3 to do a press release reporting. And then after that, if the press release is not true, we'll just do, we can decide if we want to generate a banner image also. Right, so this is a more complicated use case where we can decide directly during the runtime whether we want to generate an upscaled video, whether we want to generate a press release, or whether we want to do a banner image. So let's take a look. Let's say we have this video here. Okay, so this is a video of the announcement of iPhone in 2007, right? So by Steve Jobs, introducing the new iPhone at the time. And then we are going to simulate how AI is going to do a reporting based on this video itself. And let's say the resolution is low. Alright, so let's take a look here. Our video upscaling is finished. We can download the video already. And this is the video outcome, right? So it's a upscaled video where we generated from the input. So the second use case is that we can do a run where we do the same video. Let's say the resolution is high enough now. We say we want a banner image. We don't want a press release. Right, so the image is generated. Let's take a look at the output. So this is an output image. Let's run one more time, where we do sufficient resolution, and we don't want the better image where we want the press release, right? Right, so this is the part where we have the press release generated by our Llama 3 model, right, based on the video context. So the workflow is a very useful tool for you for your daily business use case, your business as usual, for your daily operations as well, where you can cut a lot of manpower and improve your work efficiency.